was connected on a 38-yard pass on the very first play from scrimmage.
Pretty good memory.
That set the tone for the game, didn't it?
I love playing those teams that are supposed to be the champions, because they got when they're arrogant and they come in there like they're going to stomp you to death. I love to play those guys. I love to disappoint.
Well, that's interesting. You took a whipping from Hillsdale in Michigan, and you learned so much from that. It was such
everything.
a team builder. And now you come back and play another humongous Michigan team, but this time the tables are turned.
And they were the #1 rated team in the country at that time.
They were.
Mhm.
Why did they come to Fairmont? Why didn't you guys have to go to Michigan?
He guaranteed them so much money. Fairmont, and the people of Fairmont, that's another point that goes unnoticed a lot. Supported us and backed us and whatever was necessary. The college, the administration, coach told them, well, we have to guarantee them X thousands of dollars. No problem. Guaranteed advance sales, tickets. That's how we got both games here.
You know, the second one was.
So it didn't matter that who was ranked #1. It was who
Yeah,
could get the best
It's about money.
guarantee to the
They had
NAIA.
They have their choice. Whoever's highest rank has their choice. In the case of this NAIA playoff, when we played Eastern Washington in the finals, we had to come up with $20,000 to bring them to our place, but they had a choice. If they could come up with $20,000, we had to go to Washington. So, but if they couldn't come up and we could, then we could have the game.
How did you do it? Did you talk to businessmen? Did you talk to the Fairmont State administration and staff? I mean, how did you finagle to get the guarantee where you wouldn't have to go to Michigan?
We had played in Minnesota, and I didn't know any of the. I didn't even ask about any of the details. But when we went up there, it was like 11 above. It was real cold. There wasn't anyone in the stadium, and so I got smart after the game was over, and I asked Squibb, I said, how come we went up there to play in that game? He said, well, because we had to furnish $12,500, and we couldn't come up with that. I said, well, why couldn't we? I said, there wasn't anyone in the stadium. How could they make any money? I said, and so then I knew that I better get involved. I better learn some things. So I did. The thing about Northern Michigan was their coach had facilities that were similar to ours, and I think he probably thought that since we were in West Virginia, it was going to be better than in Michigan. Actually, It wasn't. But he was glad to get the opportunity to play on a better field than what he had.
Oh, okay. You have to guarantee $20,000 for.
No, I'm not sure what that was. I think it was 13 or 12.5.
Now, I was thinking that there was businesses that you had
They
gone
were.
to
They did.
that said, okay, we'll back you.
They did.
If you don't raise the money, we'll give you the money.
Yeah, there was a lot of, like, I remember Petrola had a store downtown,
Right.
and I forget how many tickets they bought. They just bought a slew of them, and like Roy said, there was many businesses that were supportive. They wanted to have us in here. But I can't take credit for raising that money. Squibb Wilson and our administration did a real good job of providing us for money, finances for that.
The Falcons had finished the regular season 9-0, earning them the right to be in the NAIA playoffs for 1967. While the Falcons were waiting to see who they were going to play, their lineups were established for the playoffs games. The defensive starting lineup for the playoff games were left end Barry Blackstone, number 41, left tackle Roy Dowell, number 79, middle guard Dave Williams, number 74, right tackle Matt Fortier, number 75, defensive right end Larry Blackstone, who was also the starting fullback, number 33, inside linebacker Martin Bardick, number 42, right linebacker Tom Swisher, number 63, defensive backs Mark Tennant, number 85, Jim Mertens, right halfback, number 82, the strong safety, Bill Wiesiak, number 21, and the right safety, Ron Robinson, number 20. Coach Duvall's philosophy was a lot different than most coaches, even for the late 60s. He believed that the best athletes should be on the field, and he had a phenomenal number of players that were playing both ways. Those players that played both ways, though, had to put in the extra time to get ready to play both ways. As you see, Fairmont State's starting lineup on offense will show Jim Mertens, the left end, number 82, who played a lot of defense. George Schreier, the left tackle, number 72, who played some defense. Jack Reagan, the left guard, number 61, who later in his career played linebacker. Rick Merle, the center, number 51. Jim Reynolds, the right guard, number 70. Roger Hill, the right tackle, number 71. Dave Coe, the right end, number 84. John Kara, the quarterback, number 10, who starts the game and shares the duties with Roy Michaels. John Kara later becomes a great defensive back for the Falcons. Ronnie Robinson, the wingback, number 20, plays a lot of the game as the fifth defensive back on defense. George Edwards, the tailback, number 43, and Larry Blackstone, the fullback, number 33, who also starts at defensive end. Coach Duvall had decided after the 1965 game that if we were to be lucky enough to get into playoffs again, he wanted to do everything possible in order to host the game in Fairmont. The people of Fairmont responded, and Fairmont was slated to play Northern Michigan in Fairmont for the first round playoff. Northern Michigan came to Fairmont to East West Stadium in 1967 as the second undefeated team and also ranked number 1 in the NAIA to play Fairmont. Since the Waynesburg game was a complete defensive struggle, Coach Duvall changed his philosophy for the Northern Michigan game and opened the game up passing. The game was a success for the Falcons as they defeated Northern Michigan in the playoff 21-7 by going to the pass several times to different people. Passing to Coe, Mertens, and Edwards and scoring 3 touchdowns by the pass gave the Falcons an easy victory, which put them into the playoffs with Eastern Washington at Mountaineer Field in Morgantown. Roy Michaels, one of the 2 Falcon quarterbacks, had a tremendous passing game, completing passes to Dave Coe and George Edwards for touchdowns. Here you see Dave Coe making his catch against Northern Michigan for a touchdown. Jim Mertens, the Falcons split end, made several catches during the playoffs that were important, but no catch was more important than the catch that he made from George Edwards starting the game against Northern Michigan, which put them completely on the defensive, not knowing whether the Falcons were going to run or pass. George Edwards, who was a very versatile back at Fairmont during his 4-year career, could also not only run but block, pass, and catch. Here he is catching the ball against Northern Michigan. That led to a touchdown and established the Falcons as a major offensive power as well as a defensive power. George Edwards made first-string All-American halfback for the Falcons in 1969.
It was fantastic because we had such a great crowd for the Waynesburg game. I mean, there was probably 12,000, 13,000 people in that stadium. They were lined up 6, 7 deep around the sidelines. It was unbelievable. Well, we had that same great crowd from Northern Michigan. And so we knew that if we were playing a national championship game in Fairmont, we had to find a different venue. So that kind of spurred us on to be able to get West Virginia University to graciously allow us to come down there and play the national championship there.
After winning the first playoff game, the Falcons prepared for the December the 9th showdown between Eastern Washington of the state of Washington, who defeated New Mexico Highlands in their playoff game against the Falcons. The game was moved to Mountaineer Field in order to handle the crowd that was expected for the contest.
But let me tell you the real story.
Okay.
When we won that Concord game, Dr. Feaster called me in and he said, let's take a trip. Well, this time I did my homework. If you go to Eastern Washington, there's 29 inches of rain in December on a field like ours, only 29. We only get maybe 10 and we can't play on. How can you play on that? So he said, let's go to Washington. I said, Dr. Feaster, I didn't know anything about going to Minnesota, but I found you know, you and I agreed we wanted the best team, and we had the best. And I'm not telling anyone else, just you. We had the best team, but we got beat, and I don't like that. And all I want is a fair shake. I want my kids to have a fair place to play, a neutral football field, or one that's decent to play on. Waynesburg's still bitching because we put them on a bad field. You know, like I told you, I get all them calls and everything. Northern Michigan didn't bitch, but Waynesburg did. And I don't want them to think, you know, we want it fair and square. That's all I'm asking. He said, well, we can't. He said, first of all, we don't have you have to have a larger stadium. I was in his office. And I said, he said, we can't play at East West Stadium. I said, no, but we can play at West Virginia. He said, well, can we get the field? Well, Red Brown was my personal friend. I knew Red Brown he and I were friends, and he was the athletic director. I said, may I use your phone? He said, yeah. Thank goodness old Red Brown was in. You got a field. I said, we got a field.
Really?
He said, well, how about?
For free?
Yeah.
They didn't charge
How about? He said, but we got to have $20,000. I said, well, that shouldn't be any problem. We're playing for a national championship.
Yeah.
He said, yeah. He said, I said, I have faith that they'll come. He said, we can't do that on faith. I said, that's all I do things on, Dr. Feaster. You know, I don't know whether I'm going to be here tomorrow, but I have faith. I will be. And he said, well, we just can't do it that way. And so I said, well, this is what you're not going to like. So I'm going to tell you something, Dr. Feaster. If you take the game to Washington, find you another coach.
Wow.
That's what people don't know. So nobody knew what we were going to do. One day, you know, it was in the paper. What were they going to play? And the reason, I'd already made that statement, and that was for true. I wasn't going to go to Washington. No way. I told him we got 29 inches of rain. It's a bad situation. Let's play anywhere that they have a good field close there, fine. You know, an artificial. So anyhow, about 50 students came over to my office one day. They said, what's the holdup? And I told them the truth. I said, we don't think we can get $20,000. They said, we can get $20,000. Let us sell tickets. I said, would you tell the president that? They said, yeah, we'll tell anyone. Go over and see him. They went over, and he said he couldn't sell tickets to them. They came back and said, what are we going to do? I said, how many you got out there? 50. I said, get 200 and go back and see what happens. They went back, and they got in, and they come back and said, we're going to sell tickets. So in 3 days, they sold $30,000 worth. That's how we got to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's a good article.
That is the truth. And of course, I'm not telling anyone. I don't, you know, when I left Fairmont, you know, when Dr. Feaster and I parted company, I know he didn't care much for me, and he didn't want me, you know, I was a pain to him. But if my guys work like they did, they come in here, I ask them to work in the summertime, give their time. If we can give their time, the best I should do is give them every opportunity to be the best. And what really disappointed me when Dr. Feaster first came in, it was a long time before we had a president. And things were terrible. We didn't even have a dressing room for the officials or a toilet for the spectators. They had to go clear down to the off campus. So when Dr. Feaster finally came, I had to see him. We needed so much done. Our field was in bad shape and needed to be crested and all. And so when I finally met him, I gave him all this list. He did it. Well, at first I said to him, what kind of a team would you like to have? He said the best. I said, shake hands. That's the way I feel. We want the best. And so after he did that, I was so sure that he would do everything. And then when we get to the playoff, where it really counts, and you don't want your kids to have it, no way. And I'm sorry to tell you that, but
Well,
that's
I
the way
didn't
it
know
was.
that.
Yep.
But I knew that they'd sold advance tickets, that's how they had raised
$30,000
the money.
in 3 days.
Yeah. And I
And
was,
you know what?
Was this for the Northern Michigan game? Or
No,
Oh,
Eastern Washington.
And here's
Okay.
what even upset me even more. The students, all they had to do was tell West Virginia students are supposed to get in free to their stadium. But I'm sure that if you said to them, if you'll pay $1, would you pay $1 to come to this game? They would have done it. The other way, they rushed the gate and came in anyhow. And we didn't even take the concession stand. It all went to West Virginia. And I thought that was wrong. Because Red Brown told me, whatever you need, just ask and you've got it.
The people of Fairmont and Falcon fans from the total area showed up and supported the team to the tune of $12,500 at Mountaineer Field. The people were not disappointed because they saw a football game between two small college powers that was not only meaningful to Falcon fans, but meaningful to the people from Eastern Washington also. Saturday, December the 9th, 1967, brought us a nice sunshiny day, temperatures in the 50s, and a perfect day for football. So perfect that even the FSC marching band was on hand for the pregame ceremony. The two co-captains for the game were Larry Blackstone, number 33, an All-American, and Dave Williams, number 74, an All-American middle guard. On the 1967 team, there were 16 members that made All-Conference, 3 that made All-American, and 3 that played in pro ball. The Falcons won the toss and elected to receive. Eastern Washington brought a record of 10-0 to the game. They had a highly regarded passing offense led by the NAIA total offense leader, Dietrich. The Eastern Washington Savages ran from a variety of formations with a multiple offense, mixing up the pass and the run very effectively. The Falcons introduced their offensive team. They also introduced John Kerr, the starting quarterback, but Roy Michaels is to start the game. Coach Duvall used both quarterbacks effectively throughout the 1967, alternating them on offense. George Edwards receives the kickoff for the Falcons and runs it back to the 24-yard line, where the Falcons set up and run their first play. A power sweep to the right with Edwards carrying the ball again. The Falcons continue this with their 1-2 punch, running Blackstone on the second play off tackle. Larry Blackstone, the conference leading ground gainer, picks up the first down as he rips off tackle and enables the Falcons to keep the ball. After the first down, the Falcons try Edwards off the right side from the overload formation, then try him off the left side, only to find out that the Eastern Washington defense is also as tough as the Falcons defense. On third down, Kara comes in and tries the option play, but the Falcons find themselves with fourth down and long, so they go into their punt formation. The punt rolls dead, and Eastern Washington gets the chance to try their offense for the first time and to also test the Falcons' defense. Eastern Washington opens up with a pass on first down that goes incomplete. And then they'll come back and try the run against a tough Falcon defense on second down. being a very versatile team, they come back to the pass on third down and get the first down, which keeps their drive alive. After the first down, they're going to go back to the run and test the Falcons' defense again. They try the run on second down, but finding no running room, they're looking at a 3rd and 5 situation. They try the run on second down, but finding no running room, they're looking at a 3rd and 5 situation.
41. Barry Blackstone, twin brothers of Larry,
which is going to force them to now
almost didn't play his senior year because his wife, he got married, and I don't think his wife was too interested in him playing, but he finally decided to play.
Puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and the pass goes in.
While his brother had an All-American year, Barry just had a mediocre year. But
ball's kicked and handled by Weeziak, and handoff to Robinson. Robinson returns the ball on a great run back inside the 50-yard line.
But due to the injury to Larry,
was all conference for the Falcons in
Barry must have felt, I got to play twice. He was the most outstanding defensive player we had. Had a great game. Had his A game.
Mention All-American. At the Falcon home. They get a penalty, which is going to force them to now look for the pass as a means of making a first down. A good pass rush puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and the pass goes incomplete. This forces Eastern Washington into a punting situation. Ball's kicked and handled by Weeziak with a handoff to Robinson. Robinson returns the ball on a great run back inside the 50-yard line. Number 21, Bill Weeziak, was all-conference for the Falcons in 1965 as a safety and handled 41 punts in 1967 for 718 yards with a 17.5 average. Made honorable mention All-American. At the Falcon home games, he was known as Run It Back Weeziak. Number 20, Ronnie Robinson, who received the handoff from Weeziak on that play, was an all-conference offensive end in 1966. Robinson was very versatile, and he played end, wing back, punted, and played defensive back for the Falcons in 4 years. A penalty on the punt return puts the Falcons back in the hole against a tough Eastern Washington defense. The Falcons try a pass play, a run off guard, and end up punting the football back to the Savages early in the first quarter. Eastern Washington, starting out on their own 23-yard line, will test the Falcons' defense with a trick play broken up by Barry Blackstone. Eastern Washington was famous for running a power sweep and a bootleg pass. Here they successfully run around the Falcons' defense for a first down. Dietrich, their quarterback, was an awful good scrambler. Here he breaks out of the pocket and runs into Falcon territory before he's brought down by Weeziak. Eastern Washington now is mixing up the run with the pass and controlling the ball against the Falcon defense. Power sweep, this time going to be contained by the Falcons and stopped by Dwight Carpenter and Ronnie Robinson. Eastern Washington's being reluctant to try to pass the ball, so they end up and they have to punt. They're punting to the Falcons deep inside the 10-yard line. The ball rolls dead on the 6. Falcons are having a little trouble getting started by being put in a hole all the time, and not being able to pick up a first down sort of limits the offense a little bit at the beginning of the ball game. This is Carroll on an option play to Dwight Carpenter. The Falcons are back punting the football. Eastern Washington, with the exchange of punts, now has the ball inside the 40, and they're going to try the running attack again. Eastern Washington fakes the run, goes to bootleg pass, completes the ball, but the receiver fumbles the football. Third down, they run the power sweep for a first down inside the 25-yard line. Eastern Washington goes back to the pass, mixing it up with the run. Now has a first down at the 16-yard line. Getting started.
They gave us fits that first half quarter.
And not being able to pick up a first down sort of limits the offense a little bit at the beginning of the ball game. This is Carroll on an option play to Dwight Carpenter. The Falcons are back punting the football.
They had a super defense.
Eastern Washington, with the exchange of punts, now has the ball inside the 40, and they're going to try the running attack again.
They just kept putting the pressure on us in that first quarter. Now they're down to the 30-yard line.
Eastern Washington fakes the run, goes to bootleg pass, completes the ball, but the receiver fumbles the football. Third down, they run the power sweep for a first down inside the 25-yard line. With no score in the first quarter, Eastern Washington finds himself inside the 10-yard line, putting a lot of pressure on the Falcons' defense and in a position to score. After a good run inside the 5, the Falcon defense now has to get tough, or Eastern Washington's going to put 6 points on the scoreboard. The good quarterback fakes the run, throws the bootleg pass very successfully, and Eastern Washington has his first score in the game at the beginning of the second quarter. They kick the extra point successfully and lead the Falcons 7-0. Eastern Washington kicks off, and it's handled by Bardick. Bardick runs the ball out past the 30 to the 35-yard line, where the Falcon offense will start. Carries the quarterback. George Edwards gets the ball on the option pass run and throws the ball to Jim Mertens for a first down at the 35-yard line. Carries back in the game and runs the option to Blackstone. Blackstone's knocked out of bounds inside the 30. Kara's still in the ball game, drop backs to pass. Throws the ball incomplete. Not being able to score on a tough Eastern Washington defense, the Falcons turn the ball over on downs to Eastern Washington. Eastern Washington opens up with a pass, which goes incomplete. And on second down, runs the power sweep to the right, which is brought down and stopped successfully by the Falcons defense. On third down, Eastern Washington goes to the air again and fakes the pass and runs the draw successfully against Falcon defense, but does not get a first down. Third down, they drop back to pass, throw the screen. It's stopped by Dwight Carpenter, number 22, and Martin Bardick, and Eastern Washington goes into punt formation. Eastern Washington punts the football. Wiesiak makes a fair catch inside the 30-yard line. Michaels is in the game, attempting to pass to Ronnie Robinson. Is complete, but Robinson fumbles the ball, and Eastern Washington has good field position now, but on a fake run, Barry Blackstone throws the quarterback for a large loss and puts the Falcons in good defensive position. With a trick play broken up by Barry Blackstone.
Yeah, That's what that quarterback said.
Eastern Washington was famous for running power sweep and a bootleg pass. Here they successfully run around the Falcons defense for first down. Dietrich, their quarterback,
I was telling.
was an awful good scrambler. Here he breaks out of the pocket and runs into Falcon territory before he's brought down by Weziak.
Yeah, I told you I ran into that quarterback out at San Diego.
Eastern Washington now is
He asked me, what happened to that Blackstone? I said, which one? He said, my God, was there two of them? He said, I ran left and he said Blackstone. I ran right. He said,
and Ronnie Robinson. Washington has good field position now, but on a fake run, Barry Blackstone throws the quarterback for a large loss and puts the Falcons in good defensive position.
No wonder he remembered him. Threw him for a large loss.
Eastern Washington comes out, runs the power sweep again to number 22. He rips off a good gain down and inside the 30-yard line, where the Falcons are looking at 3rd and long again. Eastern Washington drops back on 3rd and long and hits their split in for a touchdown and goes ahead 13-0. After a successful extra point, Eastern Washington now leads the Falcons 14-0. Where the Falcons are looking at 3rd and long again. Eastern Washington drops back on 3rd and long and hits their split in for a touchdown and goes ahead 13-0.
What were you thinking at that
After
point?
a successful extra point,
that's when
Eastern Washington now leads the
I
Falcons
awakened.
14-0.
I begin to,
Early in the second quarter.
begin to know that, hey, I got to get
Kickoff
with it.
goes to Bark again, who runs the ball back to the early in the second quarter. The kickoff goes to Bark again, who runs the ball back to the 30-yard line, just past the 30, where the Falcons will start their drive 1st and 10. The Falcons are starting their drive on about the 33-yard line. Michael starts off with a pass to Mark Tennant. 2nd down. Kara's in the ball game running the option play very successfully this time to Blackstone. He gets a block by Edwards, and he's down inside the 20 to the 15-yard line. Falcons pick up a 1st down inside the 15. After a penalty, they have a 1st and goal at the 9. Michaels drops back the pass and just misses Jim Mertens. Michaels back to throw again. He hits Mertens on the look-in. Mertens takes the ball down to the 1-yard line. Kara comes into the ball game with the ball on the 1-yard line. The Falcons run their favorite play. Blackstone behind Edwards, over guard for the touchdown. 14-6. With 5 minutes left to go in the second quarter, the score is Eastern Washington 14, Fairmont State College 7, and the Falcons kick off to Eastern Washington. Eastern Washington runs the ball back very good, back to the 40-yard line, and has a 1st and 10. The Falcon offense generated a real good drive and took the ball down the field and brought the Falcons back in within striking distance. And now it's up to the Fairmont defense to try to stop Eastern Washington so that they don't score again. Eastern Washington faked the pass and tried to end around. Stopped very good by the whole Falcon defense. The Falcon defense, known as the Warhawks, really have their hands full with the Eastern Washington offense led by Dietrich at quarterback. But on several occasions they make very good stops and forced Eastern Washington into punting situations. Eastern Washington is forced to punt and must turn the ball over to the Falcon offense again. Weziak calls for a fair catch at the 30, and the Falcon offense is in business. With 3:46 to go in the half, Michaels drops back to throw and throws a screen pass back to Kara, which goes incomplete. Michaels back to throw, throws the ball down the field. The ball goes incomplete. Michaels back to pass again, is forced out of the pocket, throws the ball across the field. This time it's caught by Robinson. not enough for a first down. Kara comes in on 4th down, and on 4th and 5, Falcons go for the first down and don't make it and have to turn the ball over to Eastern Washington. With 2:34 to go in a half, Eastern Washington has the ball 1st and 10, threatening again at the Falcons 32. Dietrich goes back to pass, is forced out of the pocket, throws the ball down the field, it's caught, but the play's stopped for no gain. Dietrich goes back to pass again, throws the ball down the field, broken up this time by Carpenter and Robinson. 3rd down, Dietrich goes back to pass, runs the draw. This time it's stopped by Matt Fortier and Barry Blackstone. 4th down, Eastern Washington runs a bootleg pass. Dietrich scrambles out of the pocket, but doesn't get enough for the first down. Falcons take over again on the 35-yard line. There's a lot of action here at the end of the half with both teams trying to pass and score, and neither one of them trying to play it very safe. Both teams are trying to get another score on the scoreboard before the half. Mertens catches a pass and goes out of bounds at the 50-yard line, but there's a penalty on the play. Falcons do not get a first down and go back in punt formation and kick the ball to Eastern Washington. Falcons defense stopped them at the 30-yard line, but there's a penalty on the kick, and the Falcons get the ball again. The half ends with Eastern Washington on top, 14-7. The Falcons struggled on offense and defense in the first half. Eastern Washington is a very good football team with a lot of talent. Their coaching staff has prepared their team very well for Fairmont State. Fairmont State will have to adjust and be a lot more aggressive the second half in order to come out on top in this contest. Eastern Washington will receive the second half, so the Falcons defense will be tested early. Kara comes into the ball game with the ball on the 1-yard line. The Falcons run their favorite play. Blackstone behind Edwards, over guard for the touchdown. 14-6.
Then we had a special play
With
for
5
them.
minutes left to go in the second quarter. The score is Eastern Washington 14.
A screen pass to the
College
fullback.
7. The Falcons kick off.
Larry
Eastern
dropped it.
Washington.
It was 6 points.
Eastern Washington. Falcons kick off to start the second half. Eastern Washington gets the ball, returns the kickoff, and there's a tremendous tackle at the 20-yard line, and Eastern Washington fumbles the football. The Falcons have the ball 1st and 10 after the kickoff.
One thing that
okay.
has bugged me for a long, long time, and it is one of the athletes from Marion County that did so much in that final game, and I don't think I ever gave him credit for what he did. I don't think anybody did, and that was Roger Hill. And I can remember him at the first half said to me, Larry Blackstone had been hurt, and I'd kind of challenged Roger and the other tackles. I said, he's had a hit injury, and we don't want to see him get hit, so I want you to have an extra hard, trying to use a little sort of strategy there. Well, anyhow, we could hardly make a first down or even a yard. And so I was pretty rough on Roger at the half. I asked him what happened. I said, you want Blackstone to get killed? I said, he's going to get killed out there getting hit so much. And a couple other things. And on the kickoff, Roger Hill was on the special team. And on the kickoff, he took me seriously. And he hit this back so hard on the 20-yard line that the ball rolled back to the 1-yard line. And we recovered. And that's when we tied the score 14-14. That was his number one. This is a great break for Fairmont State. Roy Michaels has the ball, drops back to pass, throws the ball left to Mertens. Looks like he's interfered with, but there's no call, and the Falcons have a second down. Kara's in the game, drops back to pass, no one open, and runs the ball. We have a 3rd and 9 at the 18-yard line. Michaels is back in the game, drops back to pass, throws the ball to Mertens. Mertens takes the ball in the end zone on a look-in pass. The Falcons have scored in less than a minute and a half and are attempting the extra point.
Huff kicks the extra point, and the score is 14-14 with 1 minute and 15 seconds gone to start the second half. Tremendous break for Fairmont State. The Falcons now will be prepared to kick off again to Eastern Washington. They kick off. Eastern Washington receives the kick on about the 6-yard line, runs it out. This time he gets past the 20 to the 25. He's met by 2 Fairmont Falcons again. So Eastern Washington will start now, 1st and 10 at the 25. They try inside with no gain. Looks like the Falcons defense is going to play a little better the second half. They got a 2nd and 10, split backs. Eastern Washington fakes the run, throws the pass. This time a great play by Barry Blackstone, and they're looking at a 3rd and 10 at the 20-yard line. Drops back to throw. Ball thrown. Pass is broken up by Martin Bardick. Eastern Washington lines up the punt on 4th down. The ball snapped over the punter's head. He attempts to run it out of the end zone and gets caught on about the 1-yard line. The Falcons have a 1st and goal on the 1. What a turnaround in this football game. The Falcons now have 1st and goal on the 1. You know who's going to get the ball. Larry Blackstone going over again from the 1-yard line, and now the Falcons are ahead for the first time at 20-14. John Huff comes in to attempt a point after and kicks the extra point, and now the Falcons have a 21-14 lead. The Falcons will now kick off for the 3rd time in 3.5 minutes. Eastern Washington receives the ball and runs it out. This time they get to the 32-yard line. So it'll be 1st and 10 for Eastern Washington at the 32. The quarterback hands the ball off, and Eastern Washington's going back to the ground game. The Falcons defense stacks them up, and they gain 2 yards. 2nd and 8. Split backs. Quarterback runs a quick pitch, but he's going to attempt to throw the ball. Falcons cover well. Almost an interception there by Jim Mertens. The quarterback says no go. 3rd down. Eastern Washington drops back, throws a little flat pass. It's broken up very good by 2 of the Falcons, but he gets away and is knocked out of bounds about the 43. Eastern Washington still has to punt, and the Falcon offense is going to get the ball. Wieziak gets the ball, runs it back to the 30-yard line, and we got a 1st and 10 for the Falcon offense. Michaels has dropped backs to pass, throws the ball over the middle, and the ball is picked off by Eastern Washington, so you can see that they have not given up in this contest. 1st and 10 for Eastern Washington inside the Falcon 40. Eastern Washington runs out of the eye, fakes the ball, goes to throw, and he's knocked down by Larry Blackstone for a loss. So we got a 2nd and 10. Split backs. Quarterback drops back. Throws the ball out in the flat. Stopped there by Marvin Williams for no gain. 3rd and 10. Split backs. Quarterback fakes the run. Throws the ball in the flat. It's broken up by Larry Blackstone. Eastern Washington again will have to punt. The ball goes into the end zone, and the Falcons will have the ball on the 20-yard line, 1st and 10. Carries the quarterback, hands the ball off to Blackstone. He gets stopped dead for no gain. Michaels is a quarterback. It's a guy in motion. Runs Edwards up the middle on a trap play for about a 9-yard gain, getting the Falcons out of trouble. 3rd and short. Michaels hands the ball off to Blackstone. He gets a 1st down. Michaels fakes the fullback, pitches the ball out to Ronnie Robinson, who turns the corner and has the ball almost to the 50-yard line. Falcon offense is a lot crisper the second half. Blackstone gets thrown for a loss on the 1st and down. Kara fakes, drops back to throw. He gets caught for a loss, so the Falcons are looking at 3rd and long. Michaels back in the contest, drops back to throw, throws the ball, overthrows Jim Mertens that's out of bounds. Fairmont State has to punt for the first time in the second half. Good punt, rolls down, the Falcons down it. inside the 20-yard line. Eastern Washington is going to the ground game and execute a good play up the middle. They're looking at 2nd and 3. Eastern Washington running the ball effectively. Pick up 1. They got a 3rd and 2. Still running the ball. Eastern Washington picks up a first down and gets out of trouble out to about the 30-yard line. First down, they run a quick pitch, but run right into trouble as they ran into Marvin Williams and Larry Blackstone. 3rd and 5 on the 25 for Eastern Washington. Quarterback drops back, throws a little screen to flat, stopped, and the Eastern Washington will be looking at 4th down. So they're back in punt formation. Falcon defense hold. We're going to get the ball back to the offense again. Wiesiak makes a fair catch. Fairmont will start 1st and 10. Michael's back in the ball game, drops back, throws the ball just out of Mertens' hands. 2nd down and 10. Michaels drops back to throw. Completes a pass, but I saw a flag. Fairmont had a flag in the backfield. Looking at 3rd down and long. Falcons are going to have to punt. Falcons are in punt formation. Robinson kicks the ball. Ball rolls dead about the 43-yard line. So Eastern Washington's not taking themselves out of this football game. 1st and 10 for Eastern Washington at the 43. Quarterback drops back, trying to find anybody. He's trying to get out of the pocket, looking for someone. Throws short. He's stopped dead by Martin Bardick.
Center, WMMN 920 Fairmont.
And there's the end of the 3rd period. They line up on a 9 and then shift out of the yard. Dropping back is Diedrich. Looking, gets off the pass. It's knocked around, and it is completed. How about that? Completed at the 45-yard line, and the ball carrier is down at the 41-yard line, given off to Latep, the fullback. Hits into the left side, moving just inside the tackle on the left, across the line of scrimmage, and picks up a yard or 2 to the 38-yard line. Dietrich waits for the snap, has it. Ball handed off. Turning the corner on the left side is Stokey. Gets across the 35-yard line. Fights his way forward to the Fairmont State 31 before he is finally brought down. Diedrich, there's a pass. Unfolding a long pass down the field. And it is complete for a touchdown to Hardy. Hardy taking it in for a 31-yard touchdown pass. Pass went from Stokey to Hardy. Diedrich pitched the ball to Stokey, and Stokey then passed to Hardy, covering 31 yards. And here comes the kick by Zlatap, end over end. It'll be taken by Bardick at the 15. He goes to the 20, to the 25. Hit at the 25, fights his way to the 29-yard line, and down he comes. Stopping back, Roy Michael, looking, passing to Robinson. Robinson has the ball, and a penalty marker is down. Let's see what they call this one.
Pass interference. Michaels drops back to pass, hands the ball off to Edwards up the middle on a trap play. Michaels drops back to pass, can't find anybody open, has to run the ball, runs the ball to the left, to get caught by Eastern Washington.
In the shadow, dropping back Michael, looking, passing, and hitting, and out of bounds goes the end, Mark Tennant. Looking, passing to Robinson, completing to Robinson. Robinson button hook, breaks the tackle at the 30, gets to about the 27-yard line, and down he comes as Morford makes the tackle. Gives that ball off up the middle, goes Edwards. Edwards is at the 10, he's at the 5. Edwards is in the end zone for a touchdown. Edwards going 27 yards for the touchdown.
The play that put the Falcons ahead, 28-21. Was a left formation tackle trap with George Clayton Edwards carrying the ball up the middle behind Jack Reagan, Rick Merle, Jim Reynolds, and Roger Hill, who executed the play almost to perfection, as you can see. leaving no one left to meet Edwards until he got well into the secondary. Under Coach Kerr, the offensive line coach, the Falcons were always able to trap the opponents, and this illustrates exactly how effective the trapping game was for Fairmont State in 1967. With 10:32 to go in the game, John Huff kicks the extra points, and the Falcons are ahead 28-21.
And then he made that key block that sprung the guy loose for a touchdown. And as Coach Michael explained, I wish you could see that block. I showed that the postal employees at Fairmont wanted to see the film of that game. I took it to them, and every time they saw, I always pointed out, I said, I want you to watch this block. And they couldn't believe how this 210-pound linebacker, and Roger only weighed about 210, how hard he hit this guy and flattened him. And the guy's name was Half Moon, the linebacker from and the reason I remember that is because of that block.
Well, as I said earlier, my role primarily was scouting and watching film and trying to break down the other team as far as what they were doing and so forth. And we had noticed through the week that as they got into passing situations, they had a tendency to widen their they played a six-man front, which meant that each of the guards were covered, and they had a tendency to play head up on the guards, and under normal circumstances, and made it tough to run in there on a six-man front. But as passing situations, to get a pass rush, they kept moving their guys wider on the outside shoulder of the guards, and the middle linebacker kept moving back further and further. So we were looking for this kind of a situation, and as we were making our last drive there late in the fourth quarter, they were trying to get pressure on us because we'd made 2 or 3 first downs, and it came down to a 3rd and long, and of course it was an obvious passing situation. And we had, in those days we didn't have a draw. Okay, our draw basically was some type of play action, so I happened to be one of the Fairmont East graduates who I had played with. Jim Seipold was playing at West Virginia University at the time, and Jim Seipold, when he found out we were going to play down there, Jim said, "Hey, I'll go up in the press box with you, and we can maybe see some things together." And so I kept telling Jim, I said, "Now keep watching that linebacker. When he gets 5 yards deep, you let me know." Well, on second down, and he was getting deeper, and so he said, "Coach," he said, I think he's back about 6 yards now." So I called. I got on the phone and I called down, and Coach Bundy answered, and I said, "Coach, we need to run pro left tackle trap pass." And so he ran to Deacon and told him, said, "They're where we want them. Run this play." So they sent the play in, and the rest is history. So it was where, like we always talk about, where opportunity meets preparation. So we had it in the arsenal. We knew that we wanted to run it, and they gave us the opportunity, and so that's what happened.
Perfect blocking.
Oh, absolutely! It was set up so perfectly, and our tackles. One of the tackles made the trap block, which was great, and then the other tackle went down and picked off the middle linebacker, and then when George Edwards broke into the open, defensive back tried to tackle him, and he broke that tackle and went 27 yards for the touchdown. It was just a great moment, and one I'd never forget. So. It was terrific. We had probably tried that play at least 2 other times during the course of the game, and we ran the pass off of it, okay, which we probably ran more than the actual play. and actually the pass off of that was a fake to the tailback, and Roy Michaels would roll out, and then our tight end would drag across the middle, and our fullback would go out in the flat, and then our split end on that side would do a deep flag. And so we had hit a couple of those passes off of that same formation, so it was set up. Obviously, in third down, they figured we were going to pass the ball, and we crossed them.
Ron Robinson to kick it off. Boots it. It's a low one. Bounding around. And it is going all the way back. It's in the end zone. It'll come out of the 20-yard line. What a football game this has been. Diedrich drops back. The aerial circus is out. Diedrich passing. And it is no good.
Second down for Eastern Washington. They try a quick pitch left, and it's stopped for no gain by the Falcon defense. Third down, Diedrich dropped back, hits a guy for a first down. It's 1st and 10 for Eastern Washington. Eastern Washington runs their power sweep right on first down, lines up, runs their power sweep left on second down. They're looking at a 3rd and 10, so now they have to complete a pass for the first down. Diedrich drops back, looks down the field, throws a pass. It's incomplete. They have to punt. Eastern Washington punts to the Falcons late in the fourth quarter. Wiesiak fields the punt on the 25, tries to make a move, slips and falls down about the 23-yard line. 1st and 10 for the Falcons.
Set to go. Michael, the quarterback, gives that ball off, and up the middle goes the ball carrier for the first down. Let's see who was lugging that ball that time. It was Morrow, the fullback.
Falcons line up and run a sweep to George Clayton Edwards going left, pick up a couple yards. Looks like it's going to be a 3rd down and 1. Falcons line up and give the ball to Blackstone. He gets the first down. On first down, the Falcons line up. Michaels drops back, looking for a pass. Throws it out in the flat to Mertens. It's incomplete.
High formation. The ball is pitched. It goes to Robinson. He is at the 40. He is out of bounds. Gary Blackstone in the offense for the first time this afternoon. The quarterback is Roy Michaels, sophomore from Reamsville, West Virginia. Michael has the ball. Gives that ball off to Larry Blackstone, the fullback, and he is up to the 45-yard line, picking up the first down. Michael pitches. Robinson turning the corner on the right side, gets to the 45, goes outside. He is out of bounds on the far side of the playing field at the 48-yard line.
It's a good game by Robinson. Falcons are looking at second down. They try the trap play again up the middle to Edwards. Edwards is stopped for a short gain at the 50-yard line. Falcons are looking at 3rd down and 10 at the 50. Give the ball off to Blackstone. Blackstone meets a good, strong defense, and the Falcons are held on 3rd down.
Northcutt and Spanish waiting. 28-21 the score. Fairmont leading. There's the snap. Robinson has it. Has time. Gets off the boot. A good one. Northcutt. No, Spanish will take it. Takes it at about the 10. Retreats. He's going to be hit hard and driven back to the 5. What a flashing tackle by Roger Hill.
3:52 to go in the game. 1st and 10 for Eastern Washington at the 7-yard line. Diedrich drops back to pass, throws the ball, and it's incomplete. 2nd down and 10.
They shift out of the I formation. Dropping back, Diedrich. Looking. Passing down the middle and completing to the end, Svensson. He is hit at the 15, gets away and fumbles the ball out of bounds at about the 19-yard line. However, it'll be Eastern's ball. Diedrich gives that ball off, and hitting up the middle is Latep, the fullback, and he is hit at the 20-yard line.
2nd and 10 at the 20. Diedrich drops back to pass, throws a long pass out to the left, and it's incomplete. 3rd and 10 for Eastern Washington with 3:14 left to go in the game.
At Mountaineer Field in Morgantown, Diedrich dropping back, looking, passing down the middle, hitting Svensson. Svensson is off and running. He's at the 30, runs laterally, gets a block. He is at the 40, and he is hit down as he crosses the 40-yard line to about the 42-yard line. 1st and 10 from the 42-yard line. Dropping back, Diedrich, looking. Passing. It is no good. Out of bounds on the left side of the playing field. Dropping back, Diedrich. Diedrich passing. It is complete. The ball carrier hit down immediately. 47-yard line, Eastern Washington. Dropping back, Diedrich. A great passer, winding up, passing. It is complete to Hardy at the 40. He is at the 35. He is at the 30. Run out of bounds inside the 30-yard line. However, he has a first down as Ron Robinson runs him out of bounds. 2 minutes and 44 seconds. Set to go now. They shift out of the I formation. Diedrich drops back once again, looking, passing. It is no good at the 15-yard line.
2nd and 10 for Eastern Washington. Dietrich drops back to pass and hands off on the draw. Brought down by number 74, Roy Dow, and Dave Williams.
Dietrich drops back, looking for the receiver, passing down the middle, hitting at the 26-yard line. Dietrich has the snap, drops back, he's looking, he's passing. It's intercepted by Fairmont State, Dwight Carpenter.
4th down for Eastern Washington, and Dwight Carpenter, Fairmont State sophomore defensive back, comes up with the game-winning interception. Eastern Washington's out of timeouts, and Dwight Carpenter just about sealed the game if the Falcons can hold on to the ball. Dwight Carpenter made all-conference in 1969 and led the team in interceptions with 7. Dwight Carpenter being congratulated by Coach Bundy for his interception with Bill Wiesiak, number 21, who, with 2 other members of the secondary, Mark Tennant and Marvin Williams, had 37 interceptions that year for an NAIE record. Coach Duvall has carrying a game to run out the clock since Eastern Washington does not have any timeouts left, so therefore, by running quarterback sneak, the Falcons can run out the clock and end the game.
Eastern Washington is helpless. 1 second. And the end of the football game. The end of the football game as the Fighting Falcons have defeated Eastern Washington State for the national championship, 28-21. Time running out of the clock. Both teams out there shaking hands now in a fine gesture of sportsmanship. It was a tremendous battle, and Coach Deacon Duvall is carried off the field by several of the team members, evidently, although we noticed that most of the lads carrying the coach across the field to shake hands with Coach Dave Holmes of Eastern Washington. Most of these lads are not in football uniforms. Fairmont State's team shaking hands with Eastern Washington. It was a great display of football, and we watched a great quarterback in Bill Dietrich, who was just a junior from Spokane, Washington, who filled the air with football here at Mountaineer Field this afternoon. He's a scrambling type quarterback and completed a good many passes, but unable to pass Eastern Washington to the big victory today as Fairmont State was able to pull it out 28-21. So the final score at Mountaineer Field was Fairmont State 28 and Eastern Washington State 21. Dietrich drops back, looking for the receiver, passing down the middle, hitting at the 26-yard line. Dietrich has the snap, drops back, he's looking, he's passing. It's
Dwight Carpenter being congratulated by Coach Bundy for his interception with Bill Wiesiak, number 21, who, with 2 other members of the secondary,
what was
Mark Tennant,
so important was had they scored and the game ended, they would have won because they had
Coach Duvall has carried a game
a few more yards offensively.
Does not have any timeouts left, so therefore
terrible rule.
Sneak,
I was on the rules committee and got that changed.
Eastern Washington is helpless. 1 second. The end of the football game as the Fighting Falcons have defeated Eastern Washington State for the national championship, 28-21. Time running out of the clock. Both teams out there shaking hands now in a fine gesture of sportsmanship. It was a tremendous battle, and Coach Deacon Duvall is carried off the field.
Yeah, we would have lost the game even if it was tied, see, because of they had more total offense.
Most of these lads are not in football uniforms.
There's the Twins, 41-33.
It was a great display of football, and we watched a great quarterback in Bill Dietrich, who was just a junior from Spokane, Washington, who filled the air with football here at Mountaineer Field this afternoon. He's a scrambling type quarterback, and
there's Dave Williams.
Good many passes, but unable to pass Eastern Washington with a big victory today as Fairmont State was able to pull it out 28-21. So the final score at Mountaineer Field was Fairmont State 28 and Eastern Washington State 21.
That's Mark Tennant. This is John Huff.
Can you elaborate on the support that you got from the community?
Yes, sir. That's one of the things that I think is so important that I have been really remiss of not really thanking the community and all the folks that provided so much help for our football program, and in fact for all of Fairmont State. And I think that's such a great thing to be able to say that.
It's just hard to express, because in the 60s when we were playing ball, Fairmont that's when it earned the name the Friendly City, because it definitely was. And we haven't talked about the reward that we got, but I don't know who was responsible. I was kind of naive at that time. But we got to go to the Super Bowl number 2.
Oh.
I don't know who came up with the money to send it, but we got tickets. Coach will remember.
Yeah. Well, we have to thank the students of Fairmont State and the community that were so generous in buying tickets. The student body was determined that we could play the game here in Fairmont, because we had to get $20,000 to bring a team in here, and the students went out and they sold tickets that not only helped us bring in the team from Eastern Washington, but also helped sponsor our football team and give them a chance to go to the Super Bowl down in Miami Beach, and that was a great reward for our kids, and not only the kids, but a lot of folks that were affiliated and associated with the team, as Frank Lee and our projectors and so on.
A big highlight, and I think actually going undefeated for the season was really big. I mean, it hadn't happened for for a long time. And then I think the other highlight was playing New Mexico State or New Mexico Highlands down there. I mean,
did you have to travel to New Mexico to play them?
Yes, we did.
Wow.
And
what a trip.
you know, when they came out on the field, we were out there for pregame warm-up, and I thought their entire team was out there because of the size. And when they, all of a sudden, you know, in the middle of pregame warm-up, you hear this big roar from the crowd, and all of a sudden you look, and I mean, there they are. I mean, I think their first 5 linemen coming out on the field were over They were a huge team, but they had a great running back, Carl Garrett, back then, and but we managed to get out of there with a win, and came back to West Virginia and had a wonderful time. Outstanding people back there, just wonderful hospitality, the way that they treated us. It was a beautiful day. I think, we were in shirt sleeves for the game. It was December 15th, I think. Nice, warm day right there in the stadium. And, Fairmont had an outstanding team. I know the thing that I remember the most was probably their defensive front. Man, they got after it. I mean, it was definitely hard-nosed football and took a lot of knocks. And
but they only sacked you once, maybe twice. I know.
I think they only sacked me once, but I think I took a few more hits than that. But there were some big plays in the game. I think of course the two that always stand out, I think, are probably the negative ones. But
sure.
The big play, I think, the bad snap on the punt over the head, the only one all year, and of course that ended up in the kicker makes a mistake and tries to run it instead of taking a safety, and it gives them the ball on the 1 yard line, and they go in for a touchdown, and then I think you never say die, and we were coming back in the final drive, and I think we were in the red zone, and it was a 4th and 10, and I remember that I was forced to go to my second choice or my second receiver, and he didn't step back to the ball, and the defensive back made a nice play and stepped inside and intercepted it. And of course, that's the game that's over, and very discouraging. But I mean, it was a very, very. I thought it was a well-fought game and very close. And I think the kind of the highlight was afterwards in the banquet, and here you go across the country and get an opportunity to meet guys that you battled with that day, and have an opportunity to share stories and the camaraderie, and get to know the guys that you played against, and that was a huge part of it. And I think just the opportunity to play for a national championship.
It's great to get back at the college, but also to see the members of the team and share some stories with them and talk about what it was like when they were here and find out what they're doing now. And so many of them have been successful. And one of Coach Duvall's most important points was that he wanted good football players and he wanted a good team, but he wanted people to be successful and go out in life. And this team is a reflection of that. We have members of our team that are highly successful, and a whole bunch of them are good coaches, and like Barry Blackstone and Roy Michaels, and have won state championships in Ohio and West Virginia. So it's just really nice to get them all together and to watch them interact and be with each other and see what good friends they were then and still are.
Obviously, the 1967 season and team gelled together. You were responsible for the defense at one time. I think you had 5 consecutive games where you pitched shutouts. What was the key to having a good defense with you as coach?
Well, the key to any good defense is preparation and knowing what the other guys are doing as much as you can, and then getting your team ready to face the other team. And psychologically, getting your team ready is probably the second most important thing. And we were really successful at that. And our kids, they never had a bad game. They played hard every game, and it wasn't a matter of whether they're going to win or lose. They really believed that they're going to win. It's just a matter of preparation.
What's one or two of your proudest moments of that 67 season? Anything particularly stand out, or is it just everything is such a
Everything was great, but the Waynesburg team was unbelievably good. They had won the national title in '66, and they had four players that played pro ball. Dottie Herman at the Giants, and a couple with the Cleveland Browns, and their team was just loaded. And we played such a great game against them, and it's probably one of the highest moments of my coaching career in football, the Waynesburg game.
Okay, I have to ask a question. In talking to the other coaches, they said that the night before the championship game, Larry Blackstone was involved in an accident. and that you developed an infirmary all to yourself so that you didn't have to take him to the hospital.
Well, he just bumped his forehead a little bit, broke the windshield, and but he had a great game, and he seemed to be. And the doctor did check him out. We wouldn't go to play him, but he you can't believe how tough the Blackstones are. They're just they're in a league all their own, and they look just like they did 40 years ago today. And Barry, you understand, played both ways and was just a super athlete.
Okay, well, good. 20 years ago, you narrated the film of Fairmont State, which we're going to show with the 40th reunion, and I think that's a well testament to your knowledge and your abilities. Why did you do that? Why did you?
I did that because I wanted to make sure we preserved that season, and I did it for Coach Duvall because he has been such a impetus here in the state in coaching, and one of the best coaches the state's ever had. So it was really for his honor.
My name is Mike Arnold.
And where are you originally from, sir?
I'm originally from Clarksburg, West Virginia.
Okay. Is that where you live now?
No, I live in Memphis, Tennessee. Been there 36 years after leaving Fairmont State College.
And where and what position did you play here at Fairmont?
At Fairmont State, I started out played defense, played nose guard. My sophomore year, I started playing strong side guard, and played actually a total of 3 years.